DPI is one of the most confusing and misunderstood subjects when it comes to your mouse settings. So in this video, I'm going to explain exactly what DPI is and show you the best DPI for Fortnite based on an analysis of hundreds of pro players. But before we get started, make sure you subscribe to this channel so you can be the first to know when I release more educational Fortnite content like this one. Okay, let's get started. DPI, it stands for dots per inch. Of course, you see no dots on your monitor, and that's because DPI is a term used in printing. The gaming industry tends to measure mouse speed in CPI, which stands for counts per inch. But DPI and CPI are used interchangeably today because they mean the same thing. Basically, your DPI or CPI is a measurement of your mouse speed or sensitivity. The higher your DPI, the more sensitive your mouse is. You can also think about DPI in terms of pixels per inch. So a mouse set to 800 DPI will move 800 pixels for every inch that it's moved. Now, what's the best mouse DPI for Fortnite? Using data from Pro Settings, I was able to analyze the mouse DPI of hundreds of Fortnite pro players and streamers. Here's what I discovered. More than 80% of pro players use a mouse DPI of 400 or 800, and less than 10% use a mouse DPI of 1600 or more. The rest use DPIs between 400 and 800, for example 500 or 700 and so on, and no player uses a DPI less than 400. I also took this a step further and looked at the sensitivity and DPI for the top 20 highest earning Fortnite players. The story for the top 20 highest earning Fortnite players was roughly the same, with almost all the players using 400 or 800 DPI. There was one player, however, that used a different DPI, and that was 600. I don't know why they would use it in DPI in between, but they do. And what does this tell us? Well, it suggests a DPI of 400 or 800 is best for Fortnite, and let me explain why. When shooter games were starting to get popular, a lot of mice were set to 400 DPI. As a result, players use 400 DPI and have come up with reasons to justify it. But is 400 DPI more accurate than anything else? No, not exactly, and there's no evidence to suggest that it is. Listen, lower sensitivities allow your aim to be more precise because you make larger movements. And as you know, there's a direct correlation between your DPI and your sensitivity. Of course, you can still use a high DPI and have low sensitivity. But the way Fortnite interacts with your DPI means it's a very good idea to set your DPI to either 400 or 800, and here's why. In Fortnite, you have an in-game sensitivity slider that you can use to adjust your sensitivity. You can set your mouse sensitivity between 0.010 and 1.00. To calculate your true Fortnite sensitivity, or eDPI, you multiply your mouse sensitivity by your mouse DPI. For example, if your mouse DPI is 800 and your Fortnite sensitivity is 0.065 like mine, your eDPI, or true sensitivity, is 52. Now, here's why you should use a low DPI of say 400 or 800 in Fortnite. It's because it allows you to have better control over your sensitivity. What this means is that it's easier to fine-tune your Fortnite sensitivity when using a low DPI than it is with a high DPI. For example, say you wanted to adjust your sensitivity from 0.10 to 0.11. Well, if you were using 400 DPI, this would be going from 40 eDPI to 44 eDPI, which is a 4 eDPI increase. But if you were using 3200 DPI, this would be a jump from 320 eDPI to 352 eDPI, a 32 increase in eDPI. Also, the way the Fortnite sensitivity slider works is that it makes much more sense to use a low DPI. And what I mean is, the normal range for Fortnite sensitivity with a low DPI of 400 or 800 is somewhere between 0.04 and 0.20. But If you were to use a high DPI, the range would be much smaller and narrower, and it would be extremely difficult and tedious to find your perfect sensitivity. So, set your DPI to 400 or 800 and then play with your sensitivity using the in-game slider to fine-tune it. How do you find and change your mouse DPI? Most modern gaming mice let you adjust your DPI using software. For example, Logitech mice use the Logitech gaming software, and other manufacturers have different names for their software, but roughly they work the same. Some mice have a button at the bottom that lets you adjust your DPI, as is the case in Zowie mice. Older mice, however, did not have adjustable DPI settings and were usually set to 400 or 800 DPI. If you aren't sure of your mouse DPI, here are some things you could try. Look at the bottom of your mouse. You may find the DPI is written down there. You can also search online for the model number and find the product page. The model number could also be written down on the bottom of your mouse. If you only know the brand, then search for that. Then go through various product pages or images and find your exact model, the product page, and the information with your DPI. Something else you could try is this DPI analyzer by Mouse Sensitivity. It's a free tool that you can use to measure your DPI if your mouse doesn't have a setting for it. It's a little bit manual because you need to accurately measure how far your mouse is by drawing inch or centimeter lines using a piece of paper, but it's a useful tool nonetheless. In conclusion, the best DPI for Fortnite is either 400 or 800. Then you just need to fine-tune your sensitivity using the Fortnite sliders in the in-game settings. But one thing I failed to mention is how DPI interacts with your monitor resolution. And if you have a large or high resolution monitor, for example a 4K monitor, it may make sense to use a higher DPI, for example 1200 or 1600, and that's because higher resolution monitors have more pixels. Therefore, you may need to use a different and higher DPI. But most players generally use a 1080p monitor with the native 1920 by 1080 resolution because it will result in higher FPS and it's how the game was intended to be played. Anyway, that about sums up this video about DPI. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, leave a like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments what DPI you use. Thank you for watching. Peace.